So let's talk a little bit more about healing. So for Avaya students watching right now struggling with this abandonment wound, what would you say, and you may have already kind of covered this a little bit, but what are the steps to emotional as well as spiritual healing?
Well, one very important thing is to recognize that it's a journey. It's not, abandonment isn't a boil and then there's pus and you relieve the pus and you solve it. It's not like based on the Freudian psychotherapy idea that you have a catharsis and get rid of it. You don't get rid of abandonment. It's very primal. The shame and the abandonment fear are primal. We have to learn how to work with them. So the tools are very, very substantial tools, but they involve a lot of work. Learning how to get into the moment by using your sensory organs to help you tune in a very deliberate way, getting into the moment as often as you can during the day. Learning how to use your imagination to create positive mental images. The ability to do that actually has an impact on the brain. It allows you to picture a future that is positive, and you can picture yourself doing things in the future that are good. And that helps you to rehearse doing those things. So you're really doing physical therapy for the brain. You're training your brain. But it doesn't happen by osmosis. You can't read about it in a book and think that it happened. You have to actually practice the exercise. Then we have identifying the abandoned inner child and creating a real intense relationship with that child, adopting that child and really creating a relationship. Then we have identifying the outer child and creating a three-part framework, which is the inner child, the outer child, and the adult. And once you get that framework, it takes a little doing to really get it. But once you see that framework and those parts, you personify them, you have a real working model to change your life. And then there are exercises that you do, doing exercises, action plans to actually make that work. And then there is the idea of a future self. We think of it as the higher self, but we're all aiming toward a future self. And so we picture ourselves in the future as we would like to be. It is a more robust version of our current self. It is a self that's more confident and bolder and more loving and caring. It's the self that we want to be. And that future self, developing what that future self might be like and really visualizing it, is also a very important tool. And the tool, again, doesn't happen by osmosis. It involves writing and actually doing an exercise.
Mm-hmm. So we can't just put the book under our pillow at night and...
No, but most people still try that. They think reading it or listening to it on tape and they'll get it, but right. They have to do it.
Right. The rewiring doesn't come from just the listening or the right.
No, it's not a cognitive process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Very important. Awesome. Well, thank you. I appreciate you going through those steps, Susan. And since we're running low on time, I want to make sure that you talk about a program you have, as well as your books. And so there's links to your books, your website, and a discount to a program you have coming up, as well as an email address that people can contact you to learn more. So could you share about those things?
Well, all right. I have a bunch of books on abandonment recovery that guide you through step by step, that really explain it, as well as videotapes, etc. But I also have workshops, and abandonment recovery workshops. Right now they're online, and they're very, very good online on Zoom. It actually works. The first one was an experiment, and it was very effective, and they're very helpful. So the workshop is excellent because people help people, and people share their situations, and the sharing is actually reducing the shame. So what happens is people's self-esteem increases as a result of taking the workshop. And then also in the workshop, they do the exercises. They don't just read about them, they're doing them. And they're doing them in front of other people, and they're sharing what it felt like. So it reinforces the exercises. So the doing of the exercises and the sharing and the information and insight, there are 5 sessions,
Mm.
um, really promotes a lot of growth.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for all of that. And again, everyone, there's a bunch of links below that you can go access all of that on and Susan's website. And do you have any last insights? Anything else that we've left out or you want to talk about before we wrap up?
Just that people don't have to achieve all of these gains perfectly. Sometimes in life, all we need to do is make a very small change, and that change makes the difference that makes the whole difference.
Mm.
So the work that you do you don't have to do every single thing perfectly and achieve all the different milestones. In the workbook, it really gives you quizzes and milestones and so forth. But you don't have to achieve this perfectly. You can go about this the same way you go about most things, imperfectly. And just making a small improvement can make all the difference in a person's life.
Mm. Awesome. Well, thank you. That's very inspiring. Inspiring words to end on. Thank you so much for doing this, Susan.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, I've known about your work for years, and right, you are someone that comes to the top of the list when we talk about abandonment. So I'm so glad that we could have this conversation.